So the first topic I'm going to talk about is that the first reactions for Rebel Moon have come out. Now, I've been really excited for this movie. I've loved all the trailers. And even though Zack Snyder can be hit or miss with me sometimes with him, where I feel like he focuses too much on style over substance at times in his movies. One thing I'll always say about Zack Snyder is visually his movies are stunning to look at. Even movies like Sucker Punch, which I think is bad story and character wise, visual effects in that movie look incredible. Same with movies like 300 and that Owl movie that didn't land for me. Visually, it's stunning to look at. So I always think he definitely has, like, I would always say this, he's the best visual director. And I was definitely excited to see if this was based on the first reactions, if this was going to lean towards more focusing too much on style or substance. So most reactions were pretty positive. There were the main criticisms that these reactions were saying was that the whole third, for some people, the third act doesn't quite come together. If it was more like a setup movie, I could see that being a negative because it is called Part One, and I'm going to assume it's going to end on a cliffhanger probably because obviously this isn't the whole story. And sometimes when they do Part One with movies, there's some movies that are able to pull it off where they can tell a story but still leave more to come. Like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part One and Infinity War and Harry Potter Deathly Hallows are great examples of movies where personally for me, where I felt like they did a great job of doing setting up for the next part, but I also felt like they told their own story in the movie. So that's always a hard thing to try to balance. And I know Chris was saying that people the pacing was off. So like I said, you know, this just makes me more excited for the movie because most of the reactions were pretty positive. Now, obviously, the first reaction, so, but like I said, I'm just excited for Weather Moon, and this does make me more excited, like I said, for this movie. And hopefully, this is one of those exciting movies that leans towards more a good story and characters, and not so much into like slow motion and focusing so much on a style over substance, like I said. The next thing I want to talk about is that Sean Gunn has been announced to play Maxwell Lord. James Gunn put out a picture of the character Maxwell Lord from like his early appearances in the comics, and somebody was asking like, is he going to play a villain? And I didn't notice about this character, but apparently he started out as a hero in the comics, where he was this good guy who put together the international version of Justice League, I think. So I wasn't too familiar with the character's origins. I always thought he was a villain for some reason, but I think Sean Gunn's a great actor. And all I care about at the end of the day when it comes to casting is just get a great actor. And I think he'll definitely make for an interesting and really cool choice to play Maxwell Lord character. And this also makes me think with James Gunn putting a picture out and putting it of Maxwell Lord from his early appearance, this makes me think he's going to be portrayed more as a hero. And it sounds like he's going to be in Superman Legacy in a small role, the character. But I think this is a great choice. And I like the fact that this Maxwell Lord will also feel different from the one we saw in Wonder Woman 1984. And again, this also confirms that his DC universe is definitely going to be more of a reboot because this is not look like the way the pitch that James Gunn's put out, where it seems to be based more on his early appearance to character. I think he's going to be portrayed more in a heroic light, and obviously the Maxwell Lord version was played by a different actor in Wonder Woman 1984, and it was played more as a villain in that movie. So this definitely confirms more this DC universe is going to be a reboot. But I think, like I said, I think Sharon Gone is it's definitely a great choice. This does make me a little worried that you already have all these other heroes in the Superman Legacy film and all these other characters. And look, I definitely understand the fact that this is going to set up a DC universe, James Gunn's DC universe, and explore more of the superhero life of the character too. I just hope, and it sounds like the character's only going to be a small role. I just hope this doesn't get over. It doesn't like get with too many characters. Like this movie definitely feels like it has a lot of characters in this movie. And that's the one worry I have. I trust James Gunn. He showed he can handle ensembles in his Guardians movies. But that is the one thing I worry a little about. The next thing I want to talk about is the news that the reports going around that they're going to be casting a new Supergirl. And she's going to have a cameo in Superman Legacy. Now, I think if this is true, I think this is a great way to set up Supergirl to her first appearance be in a Superman movie. And when it comes to casting these Supergirl, I think this is a great idea because look, as much as I love the actress who played Supergirl in the Flash movie, And look, I'm not as high on the Flash movie as I was the first couple of times. Like on my last couple of rewatches, it's kind of come. It's I've kind of gone down on the movie where I still think it's a fun movie, but I wouldn't call it great. And even though like she's great as the character, her version was connected to Henry Cavill's Superman, and if casting a new Superman, the DC universe is most likely going to be pretty much, I would say, 99% of a reboot. And I just think bringing her back would be a mistake because I feel like again she's connected to the old DCU of Henry Cavill's version of Superman. The Flash movie is connected to the old DCU. I think if you're gonna do it like at least really close to a reboot and you're gonna cast a new Superman, it doesn't make sense you bring her back. And also the other thing, spoiler wise, if you haven't seen Flash, stop the video now. But spoiler wise, that version of Supergirl died at the end of that movie and she was not brought back. So that's the other thing too. You basically wrote that version out anyway, so you can't really continue on with that version for that reason too. So to me, it makes total sense why they're casting a new Supergirl for the new Supergirl movie. And I just think, like I said, I love that actress in the role, but I just think the fact that that was connected to the old DCU and you cut off that version, it makes no sense to bring that actress back personally. The next thing I want to talk about is that Godzilla Minus One is extending this one in theaters to December 14th in some locations. And the fact that it's become the highest grossing domestically non-American film. Like I know the budget was low for this movie, and I think it's made in the 50 area. I'm just glad to see this movie doing so well at the box office because it's a great movie. Like one of the reasons why I think this movie has a staying power at the box office is because I think if you take a Godzilla out of Godzilla Minus One, guess what? It's a great movie when you take Godzilla out of it because it just gives you a compelling story and characters you feel mostly attached to. So I've always said this. I always think that like personally for me, I'm a big story and character person. And I always think like in any type of movie, if I at least feel somewhat interested in the story and characters, that in my opinion makes the movie just more, I don't know, for me personally, more exciting to watch. Because if you like if I don't care about the characters, then it just becomes kind of like, it becomes noise. So I just love the fact that I think that's one of the reasons why this movie just is broken at the box office and why people are going back to see it again and again. And I think this is just great news as a movie fan to see that a movie that's doing so well at the box office, I believe at the high 90s with the critics and audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, that this movie is going to be in theaters longer. Like, gives more people a chance to see this movie if you haven't. And just as a movie fan, it's the fact that people are going constantly back to see this movie multiple times is great as a movie fan. And again, as Amber showed that, hey, if you make a great movie, people will come back again and again. It will do something. If you make a movie that stands out, people will come back in again and again. So I think this is great news as a movie fan. And definitely, if you haven't seen Godzilla Minus One, go and check that movie out. Like to me, if you haven't seen it at this point, this is a chance for you to check out the movie before it leaves theaters completely. And I think, like I said, this is great news for this movie. This is a movie that deserves to do well at the box office, and I'm always happy when there's a when a studio makes a great movie and it does well at the box office as a movie fan. So this is, in my opinion, great news for Godzilla fans, great news for movie fans. And like I said, go and see Godzilla Minus One before it leaves theaters. It's a movie, in my opinion, it's a movie worth checking out. It's a movie that you gotta see in theaters. So that's all the movie news. Until next time, movie fans.